Putting together a cast for a show is always a challenge because you not only cast each role the best you can, but look at the sort of the big picture and see how everyone looks together. Lost was an especially large challenge because the cast was 14 people. We had 3 weeks to cast the whole show. Not only cast the roles, but also respond to the pages that were being written. Like we were figuring out who would be in the show as we were writing the script.
There were so many inherent challenges in like a TV show that takes place on an island. Is it going to be Gilligan's Island? Is it going to be Survivor? All of these issues were sort of informing the process.
We were sort of on a daily basis saying, okay, there's another new cast member, there's someone else we've just come up with, or this person's going to be, a permanent cast, this person's probably going to be a guest, no, it's going to be a permanent, and saw all these actors, many of whom inspired the characters.
We didn't have a script. It was an outline and some idea of where we were going.
So Damon would spend his days writing the script, and his nights he would be writing sides, which are scenes that the actors would read.
The search for Kate was like the first thing that April was sort of assigned to do. Yoonjin Kim came in and read for Kate, and she was fantastic, and we were looking over her resume, and there were all these movies in Korean. Like, oh, do you speak Korean? And she's like, oh yeah, I was actually raised in Korea. I speak fluent Korean. And in fact, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a massive movie star in Korea. To which we kind of said like, well, she's got to be in the show now.
You don't seem afraid at all. I don't understand that.
Do you like it? Good job.
It's okay.
We thought she'd be perfect as a character who didn't speak English and who, over time, we start to examine her relationship with her husband, and we learned that she actually does speak English. That role suddenly became a regular on the show.
제가 영어를 못해요.
After the audition, my agent called and said, JJ is going to write a role for you, and he's figuring out, who to cast to play your husband. So, like, in a day or two, they already had this new character developing and another character to sort of complete Sun's character.
단추가 열렸네. 쳐라. 빨리.
It was a really interesting experience because when we first got cast, I didn't know what the full script was going to be, and so we had to take a leap of faith and accept the jobs. Trusting JJ and Damon and the rest of the gang, and it was quite an adventure, and it was especially hard for me because this is the first time I've ever acted in Korean.
아니 여기 자리 없어요. 저쪽으로 가세요. 저기 자리 많이 있잖아. 저쪽.
And so, I had to brush up my language skills, and I hadn't spoken regularly since, high school with my parents. So it was a really interesting challenge.
여기 음식이에요. 한번 하나 들어보세요. 자.
성게예요. 아주 맛있어요. 먹으면 살아갈 수 있어요. 한번 먹어보세요.
What, that? What is that?
우리 모두에게 충분해요. 한번 잡숴보세요.
Dude, guess what? I'm starving, but I'm not nearly that hungry.
No way, no.
I think Jorge might have been the second person to come in.
He was the first one we knew we were going to cast because we didn't bring anybody else in for the part. Because there was no character. That character was essentially created for Jorge Garcia.
My Curb Your Enthusiasm had just aired, and I'd walked in, so they kind of knew who I was because they had seen it. And I went in and I was reading Sawyer Sides, and I just kind of did the Sawyer Sides just the way I would do it.
Jorge Garcia, I can be the nice guy if you want. But we both know, just be an act.
Please take it off.
What do you give me if
It's not yours, goddammit! Give it to me! Give it to me! It's not yours!
Stop.
It's not yours! You don't deserve it! What do you
We loved him. He was just spectacular. And my recollection was I had never seen him before. I'd seen that episode the night before, and he came in, and I was like, oh my God, that's the guy. And it wasn't even a question. We didn't read anyone else for the part of Hurley.
It was about finding great actors and then finding a place for them in this piece. And JJ has an amazing eye, and Damon, I thought, for first time creator, also just had a really great take on things. But I think the idea that you could find Jorge and be like, he's great. How do we figure out how to get him in this show?
Hurley.
Whereas in another pilot, it's like if he isn't right for the 5 parts you're reading, he's out.
Saeed was not in that first outline. Hurley was certainly not in that first outline. Sun and Jin were not. And there were other characters that were in the outline that were sort of very nebulous.
When I first auditioned for the show, I had just little pieces, just little scenes. Some of them were in the pilot, some of them weren't.
Could you ask any more questions?
I'm making conversation. That's what you have to do, ask questions.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of into my own thing here, so how about you take a time out until Daddy gets back, okay?
We wanted someone who had that kind of, dare I say, Paris Hilton quality of someone who was sort of like, whatever kind of a feel. And we saw a lot of girls. But she couldn't just be shallow, because we knew that the storyline was going to require a little bit more to go on.
As if I'm going to start eating chocolate.
Shannon, we may be here for a while.
I was in the car with someone and my manager calls, typical like LA day, you know, your manager calls, hey, I have this script, I haven't read it, but you should check it out. It's a pilot. And at that point I had said, you know what, I just don't think this year I'm going to read a pilot. I don't think I can put myself through it again. I just don't want to do it. Whenever I get home, look in the fax machine, it says J.J. Abrams in Hawaii. And I called her and I said, hey, get me in a room with him, please, 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 please.
As if I'm going to start eating chocolate.
Well, interfering with your eating disorders is not something that I aspire to. I mean, I hope you know that. It'll be a couple days for the rest of you to find this, and possibly 3, and you're looking at 72 hours
Thank
or more.
you. I know how long 3 days is, and as if we're not going to get rescued.
I'm not saying we're not. Just looking out of the plane when we went down, there's really nothing out there. We're 6 hours out of Sydney. There's nothing.
I was actually working up in Edmonton at the time, in Canada, in the many feet of snow with freezing feet, finding out about this, and I wasn't able to come down to meet on it. I ended up sending a tape. My best friend, her name's Ruth. She's the greatest. Known each other since we were 6. She's funny as hell, and she's married to this amazing guy. We met him the same night. I was actually kind of pissed that he liked her.
Emily was really Australian. That was one thing we were really looking for, because the plane was leaving from Sydney. It was also someone who could have the youth and the sweetness, but also someone who looked like they'd had a life.
Morning delivery.
Oh, you're sweet. Thanks.
Well, I figured in your condition, with the extra baggage, you know.
Well, I can still walk.
Barely. Anyway, I worry about you out here, you know. It's very sunny.
I was offered mainly fantasy-based characters, elves, pixies. So a contemporary character was important for me, and someone who had a little layers, you know, and edge to him.
Charlie?
What are you doing in the bathroom?
What? He was pretty true to what he ended up being, except he was much older. He was constructed as a has-been rocker who'd been a big hit in the 80s, but was now washed up and had a heroin addiction.
I went in with sides for Sawyer, for Josh Holloway, but my agent said, chances are you're probably not going to read for that, because it's not going to be suitable. But they're kind of doing a relatively open casting call at this point.
My name's Dominic Monaghan.
Hey,
Hey.
how's the arm?
The breaking ball's probably going to suffer, but I think I could give you a few innings.
Fire's going pretty good if you want to come over.
I'm okay here. Thanks.
I don't think we should tell anyone about what we saw.
What did we see?
When Dominic Monaghan came in, he was just such a good actor that we thought, well, you know, you can be a young has-been.
Excuse me. Are you sure you want to be smoking with the plane stuff?
Sure, you want me to shove my foot up your ass?
Sawyer, in the original version of the outline, he was sort of a Prada suit-wearing, slick kind of con man, like a la like Gary Glenn Ross, like a Mamet kind of style guy.
I go to do the reading for JJ and Damon, and on the breakdown it said, Slick City Con Man, and he's from Buffalo.
You want to know about me?
Oh, yeah. Sure, if you like.
I was born in Pittsburgh. Father died when I was 2, mother when I was 4. Moved to Buffalo. Lived with my aunt and uncle. She sat around on her fat ass all day while he ran scams.
About halfway through it, I got stuck. Couldn't figure it out, so I just kicked a chair into the wall. And then it all came back to me, so I finished out the monologue, and I think that's probably what got me the job. They were like, ooh, yeah, we're looking for a salty kind of guy like that.
He was not at all that guy, but he was so watchable that we're like, okay, forget the fact that he's a Prada suit wearing like slick guy. Like this guy's sort of more of a feral, like, you know, southern, you know, equally intelligent, but a different kind of guy entirely. So let's rewrite the character around him.
It's over! Come on! That's it! Think of this, friend! You want some more of me, boy? Tell everyone what you told me! Tell them that I crashed the plane!
We knew early on that it was going to be an international cast. We were going to have this international airliner. It wasn't going to be a bunch of Americans. And I had recently worked with an actor named Naveen Andrews on a ABC television show that lasted 6 episodes called The Beast, and he was just a standout. And he did one read, and it was a marriage right from the start.
How do you know how to do all that?
I was a military communications officer.
Yeah? You ever see battle?
Oh, yes. I fought in the Gulf War.
No way. I have a buddy fought over there. He was in the 104th Airborne. Were you in the Air Force, Army?
The Republican Guard.
When we started looking for this character, it's like he was the guy we wanted. Now, we did look through a lot of other guys. We were even surprised he would do it.
I just went in and met JJ and Damon and Brian and just did the scene. And it wasn't until I was cast that I got a script. So, you know, from the outset, there wasn't that much preparation I could do. All I knew was that he was from Iraq and he'd obviously been in the army.
Mr. Locke said a miracle happened to him.
Yeah, well, a miracle happened to all of us, Walt. We survived the plane crash.
Harold Perrineau happened to be in town doing Top Dog Underdog with another wonderful New York actor. And when we were starting to cast the role of Michael and Walt, it was a natural thing to, like, get him in.
Yeah, the comic book's in Spanish. You read Spanish?
No. I found it.
Look, man. We need some help here, all right? I don't know how to do this yet.
The first time I met Damon and JJ and all those guys, I was a little skeptical about the whole process. You know, there's a pilot about a plane crash and people in Hawaii. And as it went on, they started talking about this project more and more, and I was like, this is kind of interesting. So I go to do my audition and read the little bit of information that I have, and then JJ says, okay, well, let's think about this. And I go, oh, okay, well, let's think about that. And I try it again, and then he goes, well, what about this? And suddenly it kicked in my head, like he did some Jedi mind thing. Like suddenly I got it, like, oh my God, there's so much to do here. There's so much to fill in, there's so much. And they started talking about all these ideas that they had.
How's your son? Well, yeah, I think he'll be all right. How old is he? 9, 10? 10.